I made a sign. I've seen a sign. I just got to know why. I've been thinking overnight about this whole business of why we need to have another Maori health system over the top of the one we've got. This is not about Maoris, really. This is about our government. I have to ask why. Let's start with Three Waters. I've got to ask why it is that in this nation of ours, where we all of us actually live in one culture, and that's the basic sort of culture of it's European culture all day long. It's a culture that came out of Europe and developed into what it is now. That came from Europe, just did. And so, and way back in the day, they started sticking pipes under the grounds to carry stuff away, and bring stuff in. And so I got to ask the question of the government and of the people of New Zealand, why? I'm going to keep asking the question as well. Why? Why is it, for example, that we think it's a good idea to take the infrastructure that was created by the population at large by paying their rates and developing the world that we live in today? Why should we think it's a good idea to take all that infrastructure and put it in the hands of one group of people on the basis of their race? If it's going to be Maoris, why shouldn't it be the Indians, Why shouldn't it be the Chinese? Why shouldn't it be the Afghanis? What's the deal? Everybody in this country is supposed to be equal, and so these people make them very unequal, so that it's breaking every tenet, T-E-N-E-T, of the Western society. Why would, how and why does it make sense to take infrastructure that's already there, being created, has been functioning for bloody donkey's years, and buy it from the councils at a price way under what it's actually worth, and then give it to a group of people on the basis of race? Why is it that Maori are presumed to be better able to look after the water systems in New Zealand than the population at large? I would say that there's lots of Maoris who are working in aspects and areas of the industries that keep all that going. They're working there now. They're part of it now. So why would we want to give ownership of it to them exclusively? What is the clever reason? What is the reasoning? Tell me why. Why would we do that? We have to ask, we've got to ask ourselves the question. New Zealanders have got to ask themselves the question: why are they doing this to us? Why are the government being so bloody subversive? Why do they think it's a good idea? They need to come out and say, oh, we've got this idea. We're going to take the water systems off everybody else and we're going to hand control of it to a small group of people on the basis of race. And here's the reason why. We haven't heard the reason why, because it's never been given, because, there won't be a good one. So then you've got to ask, why is it that they want to give, a huge number of millions of dollars to set up a Maori health system that absolutely has to function inside the one we've got now? The one that we got now that services everybody. It's a free health system. It's one of the few free health systems on the planet. Why do we want to dish up control of it, or part of it, to one group of people on the basis of race? If Maori need a separate health system, why don't the Chinese in New Zealand need a separate health system? Why don't the bloody Indians need a separate health system? Why don't the people from the Middle East need their separate health system? I mean, they got religious things that enter into all that. Why? What is it that Maori will bring to the health system that's not already there? One of the problems with Maori health is the sort of lack of take-up on the one hand, and also, the fact that you've got to look after your own health. You've got to be proactive. I'm alive now because I was proactive. I've had bloody 3 major operations that kept me alive. just have. And that's because I was onto it, I knew I had something wrong, I knew I was going to die, and I knew that the only thing that could save me was the health system. So I went along to the health system, and I did what they told me to do, and here I am, talking shit to you people now. So why? Why is it? What is it that Maori can bring to the health system that's not already there? We have to answer these questions. So, why is it that we want to give 50% sovereignty or control to a group of people on the basis of race? If it's a racial thing that we're going to do, why don't we give all of the races a little bite? Why do we give one race, which is only 16% of the population, mostly white anyway, mostly carrying European blood? They just are. And so we're going to give those people control of the nation. So they've virtually got veto rights on, if you give them 50%, they've got veto rights on everything we do. Everything the nation does will be subject to veto rights by Maori groups or iwi groups. So if we think that, that's because we're going to redress the bad things we did to Maori. Let me tell you about, over the last few months, I've been having a good, careful look at what we did to Maori. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't come anywhere near matching what they did to each other. It doesn't. And so the government have decided in their wisdom that all that stuff's got to be hidden from the children, We're going to take all that stuff out of the history. So what are they, why? It's a big why. It's a decent, reasonable question that has to be answered by not just the government, but the acquiescent New Zealanders who just think, oh, well, the government wants to do that, so we'll just let them. What's wrong with this? What is wrong with us? Why are we so dumb? Why are we so acquiescent? Why are we so compliant? This is an evil that has being done to us in the name of race. The whole Western civilization, which is the one that has evolved to where we are now, has evolved to the point where it doesn't like racism. It sees the injustice in racism. And then New Zealand, who thought they were at the head of the march for anti-racism, decides to be completely racist. Come on, people. What is it about this what is it about what I'm saying that doesn't make sense? Why? Why would one group of people be given control of the water systems in the country, and that's only the start, on the basis of their race? And it wasn't their race that developed all this stuff. I mean, if it comes down to race, which race did it all? Which race created it? This race. This whole process started when the early settlers came here from Europe. Wasn't any drains before we came along. And there wasn't any rights either, because I'll tell you what, one Maori tribe that was stronger than another had an absolute right to go around and kill the other one and eat them. That's what they had, that's what their rights were. And so that's what they were living with. That's, the thing that we stopped when we came here was that kind of behaviour. And a lot of Maori were very pleased to see that happen, because one of the things they took up when we came here in large numbers was Christianity, which forbade that kind of thing. Just did. So now we live in a society that's got three waters. It's got the water infrastructure that supplies us in our houses and takes all the crap away, and also drains off all the potential flood water, or most of it. That's what we've got now. Didn't have that before. Imagine what it would have been like to be a Maori living in New Zealand, the Maori who are going to take all this over. Imagine what it would have been like being a Maori living in New Zealand prior to sort of the 1800s. And there was a big storm. A lot of them would die. They would die of being blown away. They would die of losing their homes, and the houses that they built back then, they wouldn't last through a storm. It would just get blown away. Had to build one again. So whereas now to recover from a storm, we just go inside and put the heater on, back then they had to rebuild their bloody houses. Come on, people. We're being stupid. Indigenous rights. The Indigenous people of New Zealand if you can call them that, have got far more rights, and their rights are enforced by law than they ever had before the Europeans came here. They had no rights before. They had only the right of conquest before we came here. And one group that managed to do the conquest this week is likely to lose it the next week when a tougher tribe turned up and took it away. You know, that's just the fact of it. It is there in our history. The bloody grave sites are there. It is there. It's known. It's known internationally. I mean, we can, in New Zealand, can pretend we don't know. But I'll tell you what, the rest of the world knows. This is as dumb as dirt. You know, it's only New Zealand that's doing this stupid stuff. Why? Why do we have a government? Why have we voted for a government that is that stupid? What that tells us is that people vote for appearance rather than substance. Because, you know, who's running Jacinda? It's not Jacinda. It's not Western values. And Western values is what created this country, and it's what created the push against racism. The push against racism did not come out of Maori culture at all. It came out of Western European culture, just did. So you need to wake up, people. You need to wake up and ask yourself, why?